A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to immediately unfreeze all $3 trillion U.S. in federal funds, finding it violated his temporary restraining order by keeping some of the dollars paused. The judge ruled that the broad, categorical, and sweeping fund freeze is likely unconstitutional and is irreparably harming a vast portion of this country. Andrew Donaldson from OrdinaryTimes.com has more on the funding freeze.
So what we have here really is we have a political story with a lot of theater. There's a lot of underlying policy promises, both political and policy, how the government's going to work. What we really have, though, is a live action drama about how the American government works. Now, as a constitutional federal republic, we have a separation of powers. Congress has the delineated power of a purse. They control the money through the representatives of the people in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. The executive, of course, has control over the executive agencies. And the Supreme Court is supposed to oversee all this with oversight and things like that, and negotiate things like disputes between the states and the federal government and states between the states. So what's really going on here is this is kind of the middle of the story with these court orders. So Donald Trump came in and started doing all these budget cuts that they wanted to do, funding cuts. And there's two kinds of spending. There's discretionary and mandatory, and they're going in, especially the Doge team under Elon Musk, who, and part of the story is most of those people weren't vetted and hired through the normal processes to get to these things. They're slashing them. So, of course, people are fighting back via court orders and lawsuits. This is nothing new. Every administration has had lawsuits. Remember, the Biden administration had lawsuits they had to contend with things like the student loan forgiveness program that they kept getting pulled back and then trying to work around things like that. Trump's a little less subtle. He's just basically plowing ahead. So watch for a lot of back and forth with this thing, but understand what's really going on here is a debate over the control of money, which is the control of power in the government. Congress is supposed to have it. Congress hasn't done a real good job of reining in the executive, and now we have an executive and President Donald Trump that is really pushing the boundaries of who gets to control this funding. So that's what you watch for in these court cases. This will go back and forth. At some point, this will probably wound up at the Supreme Court because these sorts of things tend to get fast-tracked. And that's the sort of thing you need to view these things through the lens, because there's going to be dozens and dozens of these across multiple agencies, and it's going to have the same theme. Does the president have power to take away funding that Congress has allocated as part of the executive? It's a fundamental question of the American system of government, and it's going to be a really messy TV product to try to keep up with. So Vice President J.D. Vance came out and made some comments about how judges wouldn't tell a general what to do. Actually, they do. We have this thing called the Judge Advocate General Corps that does exactly that. And judges wouldn't tell attorneys what to do, which that would be news to any trial practicing attorney, because J.D. Vance does have a law degree, but he didn't actually practice law. Perhaps he should have. Thing to keep in mind here, too, is somebody like J.D. Vance and a lot of the people in the Trump order, J.D. Vance thinks he's going to be president in 46 and a half months. So he's perfectly fine with presidential power getting emboldened because he thinks he's going to be president himself in short order. So he may not be the most unbiased opinion on these sorts of things, but his overall point has merit. Donald Trump is going to push these boundaries to see how much power he has as the executive branch. And this is something that's been going on for multiple terms across multiple presidencies of both parties. The presidential power has gotten more and more and more, and Congress has gotten less and less of their constitutional authority. At some point, there will be pushback, legal or otherwise. But really, the legal system can only do so much because the Supreme Court's going to turn around. The theme of this Roberts Courts has been mostly Congress needs to fix this. And unless Congress asserts its authority, this is going to kind of be the round robin, round and round we're going to go, no matter who the president is, as long as they want to push their limits of power.